Well, Louis, we are all so proud of you for that message and also amazing to hear it. I get a chance to respond to you now, to both of you. And I just, first of all, want to say that though you were speaking, Cam and Louis, about totally different parts of the Torah, totally different Torah portions, your messages could not have been more complementary, more perfectly complementary than they were. Cameron, you spoke about mistakes and how many mistakes you make and we all make. And you spoke about teshuvah, the idea that everyone all the time has the ability to recover from mistakes, to learn from mistakes, and to change and improve. You spoke about cancel culture. You said that you do not think it is right for people to be canceled over their mistakes, but that people should always be given a chance to change. This is a very core idea in Judaism. Louis, you spoke about the conflict between Isaac and the Philistines, arguing that the Torah and Judaism's approach to the Philistines was derogatory and probably propaganda against an enemy people. But also that even with this biased view, there was simultaneously recognition of their humanity. And then you contrasted that, the way our ancient texts recognize the humanity of even our enemies, with a failure among the Jewish people today to recognize many of our own. You talked about racism in the Jewish community. People being treated differently because of how they look, or the color of their skin, or because they don't appear Ashkenazi, including your own experience of this, being treated differently. And you concluded by calling upon us, all of us, to stop judging people by their skin color and to make sure that all Jews, no matter what we look like, are treated like full members of the Jewish community. I want to tell you, Louis, that this is something that matters to me very, very much. In fact, you might not know about this, but about 2 years ago, we started something here called the Anti-Racism Initiative at CBE. About 80 of our members for the last year have been involved in this effort, meeting with special consultants to look at racism at CBE. Not meanness or intentional discrimination or hate, because we hope that that is just not happening here, but the ways that the larger American society and Jewish culture have shaped us, have made us unconsciously biased. The assumptions that many of us who have white skin might make about who is a Jew, about what Jews look like and what kind of names Jews have and what countries our families came from and what languages we speak. All of that needs to get opened up to make more room for the actual true story of who we are as a Jewish people. It is a much bigger tent, and when we open our tent all the way wide to truly reflect and welcome all of the people who belong here, we will truly make it possible for every Jew of every background to belong here. Then that will be better for all of us. We will then have a community that reflects reality. So let's return to our parsha for a minute, and the famous story that no one has mentioned yet today. Isaac sends his favorite son Esau off to hunt for some lunch and prepares to give him his blessing, intending to make him the inheritor of Abraham's covenant with God. Having earlier received a prophecy from God that indicated that the blessing should go to her younger son Jacob, Rebekah moves quickly to subvert Isaac's plan. She sets Jacob up to impersonate his big brother and receive the blessing and the covenant for himself. Isaac, whose eyesight, the Torah tells us, has grown dim, is fooled by Jacob's disguise and blesses him, thinking that he is Esau. The rabbis inquire as to the source of Isaac's blindness, which figures so significantly in this plot. Bereshit Rabbah suggests that it began during the Akedah, the binding of Isaac 2 Torah portions ago. Quote, when Isaac was bound upon the altar and his father was about to slay him, at that very moment the heavens opened, the ministering angels saw it and wept, and their tears flowed and fell upon Isaac's eyes, which thus became dim. Isaac was blinded by the tears of angels falling in his eyes and scarring him. In other words, Isaac was blinded by trauma. After all, this was a blindness not only of the eyes, but of the mind and the heart. He couldn't see his own sons. He didn't know them well enough to recognize them by their personalities, by their speech, by their relationship to him. He wasn't able to see them in all the ways we see, not just with the eyes, for who they really were. Similarly, is not trauma a factor in the blinding of many Jews from being able to see who we really are as a people? Is it not years of persecution that have made some among our people identify tribally, picturing the shtetl as the true Jewish polity, policing the borders of likeness, drawing narrow and imaginary boundaries back in Anatevka around who is a Jew, unable to see who is really here now, unable to recognize fellow Jews as kin, fully belonging to the collective, unable to conceive of an expansive, diverse Jewish people. When we realize that trauma is a factor of such misguided tribalism, we can have compassion for this misapprehension of who is a Jew. We can give everyone a chance to do better. And Cameron, here's where your divine power comes in. Because people are going to make mistakes. People have old, stuck ideas that they just haven't examined. And a lot of people, a lot of white people, are afraid to talk about race at all. Because we're afraid that one of those old, narrow ideas is going to pop out of us, and then we're going to be terribly embarrassed, because that's not really who we are, or at least it's not really who we want to be. And we're worried that if we say one wrong thing, that people will judge us, or they will, and that idea will get attached to our reputation, and then we'll be canceled in one form or another. And that fear of being canceled or judged or shamed is so strong that it's actually an obstacle to change. Given that what we want is change, we better want change. And your message, Cameron, is the message. We have to give everyone the opportunity to change. We have to give second chances. We have to believe in teshuva, that everyone has the ability to learn from mistakes, to improve, and to do better, so that we can heed Lewis's call, which is the right call. And we have to treat each other with the respect and the humility and the belief in one another, so that when we all walk around recognizing that we all make mistakes, then when someone does make a mistake, we can treat them with so much compassion. We can relate to what that feels like. We can help them not feel embarrassed. We can point out another way of speaking or of seeing and help them become more who they want to be. This is what we are involved in right now at CBE. And everyone has a role to play. To admit our mistakes, to forgive each other's mistakes, to hold up examples of what inclusion looks like, what anti-racism looks like, of what welcome looks like, of what diverse belonging looks like. And then to decide that we're in this change process together, committed to reaching the other side, when Jews of all hues and all backgrounds unquestioningly belong in this place with each other, committed together to making our world less racist, committed together to racial justice. Can you and so? Shabbat shalom.